Oh, okay.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Whatever I think.
Oh, okay. Well, good morning, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to those who are mothers. And this morning we are exploring the 5-step dream interpretation method. Your handout has all the information you need in it. It's we're just going to follow through it and show you what's there. So rather than seeing it on the screen, it is in your hands as a reference for future needs. Now, it is based on this course here. This course was called Awakening the Dreamer. It was given in the mid-'80s, and it was, the author here is, or the compiler was Scott Sparrow. Some people may know him. Under the guidance of Herb Puryear, who used to be quite famous in the ARE. And the Dream Course Committee was Harmon Bro, June Bro, Carol Bush, Marilyn Peterson, Henry Reed, and Mark Thurston. And all of these people were famous back in the day when I first started to go down there. And I joined in 1970, so I've been in a study group a long time. We actually joke about it. No, I should have graduated somewhere. But the handout takes the essence of that document. It was 12 hours long, so obviously we don't have that kind of time, but we'll move through it quickly to show you how they developed this 5-step method. And the steps really are quite simple. First, you derive the feelings in a dream. When you look at the dream, when you get it, if you're doing it by yourself, which most of us are, some of us do it in groups. We do it in our group occasionally, but not very often. So you look at the feelings that are in the dream. Sometimes you can have very remarkable feelings in a dream, very intense, yet it doesn't show anything in the dream that should convey that. The second step is we derive the theme in the dream. Now the theme is the action in the dream. Basically, someone is doing to something bad, and we try to neutralize the people in the dream so that we can look at it objectively. And then we analyze the symbols using a method called amplification. And we'll go over that. And the fourth step is we arrive at a preliminary understanding of the dream. And the fifth is we develop a plan to do something, because basically with the dream, you've got the subconscious or the superconscious that really take things in inductively. They basically receive everything. They know everything about you and everything you ever thought and did. And then you've got your physical mind, which is a deductive mind. It more or less deduces what it should do from different inputs. And so the dream is trying to talk to you, and your subconscious and superconscious are trying to talk to you and tell you that maybe you should try something a little better here, that what you got. So when you develop this plan of action, the dream sees that you're actually doing something. I used to work on dreams a lot, and now I'm like Shirley, I don't remember them anymore. But I had books of them. They were, but my feeling was that as you worked on dreams more, that your subconscious would give you more and more complicated things. And then at the one to tell you something would give you something simple. So it was basically raising you up and training you. So the sections on the first page there are that we're going to cover is the introduction, which we're talking about now, this what I'm doing right now is kind of a part of our mixed media strategy, where we're looking at different ways of doing this because obviously this is going to be used more and more. The federal government is now talking about keeping most of its employees at home and having them come in by these Zoom and other methods like that. And so we're going to see more and more of that. So the group involved in this, these meetings has been trying to come up with the best way of dealing with the with this type of presentation where you've got media coming from outside and media inside, and it has all kinds of sounds effects when, at least that's what we discussed, that sometimes when a group starts inputting a lot, it kind of drowns out the sound. And I was actually trying to figure out, like I'm 80 now, and I don't hear that well when it comes to groups like in a cocktail party or something. You know, I keep smiling at people, you know, and hoping they're not talking about a funeral because I can't really tell what they're saying. So anyway, the fifth step is to develop an action plan. And we're going to look at how to find a theme in the dream. We're going to do an inventory of personal dream symbols. I don't know anybody who's ever done that, but it looks like a good idea. And we're going to go through how to amplify a dream symbol to ego its meaning. And then we'll go with the 5-step method. And hopefully it won't take too long. So if you turn to the second page, you'll see Elsie's Secret. Now, this is my original Elsie's Secret book. Kind of weather worn. Now, I probably got this from someone. I was wondering whether the books were over there because this is Dreams Your Magic Mirror by Elsie Secret. Elsie was quite famous at the ARE, or at least the 70s, 80s, and 90s when I was going there a lot. She and her husband sought out Casey in 1943 for health readings because I don't remember what their problem, well, they probably didn't talk about their problems, but they, when they did come to Virginia Beach to see him, they became fast friends. And I met her several times. Her and her husband actually became great defenders of the study group program at the ARE because they were deciding in the late 90s whether they should expand it into what it is now or focus mainly on study groups. And you can see what they've done. It's quite a bigger organization now. Her book is based on the readings and her work in study groups. If you look at the table of contents there, you can see that she has things like people you meet in your dreams, automobiles as symbols, houses and buildings, the 4 elements, water, fire, air, and earth. Now, when we saw water in those days, we'd say, oh, well, that's spirit, you know, if we saw fire, that was emotions. If we saw air, it was thoughts. We saw earth, it was physical. And we'd look up in Elsie's book and we'd look at examples and then try to work out the dream based on that kind. Now, there are other books like this, but hers was the first one. And if you look at the next page, it gives she has chapter 6 there, people you meet in your dreams. And at that time, she was saying, broadly speaking, you usually meet yourself in your dreams, like everybody is yourself. And in artful disguises, people of authority, such as policemen, ministers, parents, and judges are usually the higher self. And the other groups, the lawless persons and those types of groups are your lower self. That was the first interpretation, but then we always used the second interpretation was perhaps the person you're strangling in your dream has something to do with your relationship to him and not with somebody else. So we weren't restricted to what she said that because we used it before. The second chapter, chapter 13 in this book was houses and buildings. Houses and the buildings are places where men and women dwell and or work. So in a dream, a house usually represents in a variety of ways the activities of self. This may seem obvious to everybody, but if you're in the kitchen, perhaps it's about food. And if you're in the living room, perhaps it's about activity between the family. And if you're in the bedroom, that could be rest, sex, or other secret activities. Casey said that homes and buildings represent the various stations of thought and actions of individuals. Now, at the bottom of that section, it says a house with rotting floors shows a poor spiritual foundation in the house or in the life of the dreamer. Now, it could also mean that you need to look at the floor.
Some very practical.
Hence the need for the 5-step method, because the 5-step method got out of this type of extreme focus on symbols that you knew, and that's always the same thing in the agreement, and it just is not that way. And but we had people. I remember Fred Gregory, who was in our groups. He used to just bat off an interpretation of your dream, and but it was all based on these ideas that these different things had different absolute meanings. Well, they simply don't. Obviously, a pig farmer, if he has pigs in his dream, it's probably to do with his work. If it's a Muslim, he might have some other meaning for them. And so we'll move into the 5-step method here. And the first section one is dream. This is page 4, but it's the 4th page for people. I'm not sure where are you? What Barb sent to them, whether it was on both sides or?
I didn't look at it. You sent it to me and I sent it on.
Okay, so it should be the 4th page. Here they have dream recall techniques. Does anybody have any special dream recall techniques?
Other than what's written here?
Other than what's written here.
One of mine is I always put myself in it.
Pardon?
I am. I always start with I am, so I can go re-enter the dream at another time when I'm writing it down.
Oh, okay.
I always start I am, whatever I am doing or seeing, or whatever I am doing or seeing or feeling. I always start with I am, so I can re-enter the dream later on. And either add to it or when I'm trying to figure out what it means.
That's always the problem we've had with dream interpretation is we've always said that if people are going to, that first person should do his own analysis of the dream. That's the whole purpose of this thing. You do your own analysis of the dream. And then if you find you're not getting anywhere and you want to bring it into your group, then do so. But it has to be written down, because if you don't write it down and you all of a sudden remember a whole bunch more when you're discussing with your group, then the whole thing changes. And
Important.
that becomes very difficult for us.
One of the things I do is I state at night, particularly if I have something I want to dream about, because I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I will make that statement when I go to bed, clearly, that says, I'm looking for a dream and I'd love to include this. I don't make it a requirement, but I state it in my own head,
Now that's the main suggestion in this section here. We'll come to it. But anyway, the first one they give here is write out purposes and ideals. I gather you did that with Lewis, right?
Yeah.
You did an ideals workshop. That's very important. The second one says go to bed early. That's obvious. Now learn to wake her in the night or have a partner watch for REM. I think that's a little researchy. But then one after that is the pre-sleep suggestion. This is one that we use very often, which is just before falling asleep at night, I will remember my dreams upon awakening. Now, upon awakening is really to prevent the waking up during the night. You sleep to rest. You don't, if you keep waking up and writing down dreams, that's good if you're really into it, but it means you're probably going to have to catch up on sleep. Dream review of journal work before bed. That's another way of priming the pump. But the next one, paper and pencil by the bed, that's important.
Yeah.
Did anybody have that during the last couple of nights? Paper and pencil by the bed when they're, no, okay, well, that's okay. This don't move upon awakening, that's a suggestion too, that you basically think about the dream, because sometimes things like that will come back when you trigger it. And it says here, record your feelings, because again, I said that was important, that when you, if you wake up with a dream and you feel really bad about it, or you feel really good about it, that becomes important input into the dream meaning. And act on your dreams. This is basically part of the methodology.
I often write something about the, like if there was something, if I'd just been away or I had a crappy day at work or something, I often write that too, as sort of, well, where was I at the point in time that this dream was happening? You know, what was going on in my life? Because sometimes you go back to it and you don't remember that part, but that can influence it, you know?
Moving to page 6, or the 6th page, we move into how to find the theme of a dream. Now, back in the day, before this method, there were people who would say, if you want to work out a dream, pretend it's a play on the stage, and then name the play. Well, name the play as like the theme of a dream, because the theme really is the action in the dream. And of course, there can be several chapters to the dream. So we say name a theme for each section. If there's 2 major sections, then make for each section. And the second paragraph says, finding the theme of the dream is a step that should ideally precede any attempt to work directly with the individual symbols themselves. The interpretation of symbols is important. The question is, when is this best done in the process of working with a dream? Since a particular symbol can have more than one possible meaning, even to the same individual, we must be careful not to interpret the symbol too soon. The next couple of paragraphs gives examples where the symbol in the dream means different things to different situations. Turning to page 7, or the 7th page, these are the actual guidelines for finding a theme in a dream. First, you limit yourself to 1 sentence summation. It's kind of like the name of the play, and focus on what is happening in the dreams. Verbs will be more important than nouns. I am running away. I am feeling rushed. Then 3 is, well, let's get rid of the I and say something like someone is running away, someone is feeling rushed, and somewhere or things, someone is putting 2 things together. And number 4 says, don't interpret the dream or a specific symbol in coming up with the theme. It's hard to get people not to move into the interpretation phase. Now, they give examples here. At the bottom, the dream is, I am in a community and we are all building houses, each person his own house. I see a woman who is stealing lumber from a young man who is trying to build his own house. I know that the young man will never be able to finish his house if she keeps doing this. Now, the theme they developed is someone is preventing someone from finishing a project or finishing something else. Now, a second dream there is, I'm walking on the beach. The ocean is beautiful. I feel such strength and peace from it. Then I come to an area of huge boulders and ravines that block my passage. It seems too dangerous to go on. I feel frustrated. As I begin to wake up, I have the feeling that I could have flown over the obstacles, but it's too late and I wake up. The theme they developed there is not using available capabilities to overcome obstacles that block progress. That's a convoluted theme. Now, on the next page, page 8, there's 3 examples you can try out yourself. I tried the first dream. I am in the den adjusting the television. I have a remote control device that rotates the antenna on the roof. I get very upset because I cannot find an antenna position that will result in a clear picture for all stations. One of the programs on one of the stations is Search for Tomorrow. The theme I picked was someone is trying to focus something to get a clear meaning. Now you can trip over Search for Tomorrow and stuff like that, because Search for Tomorrow was actually going then in those days when they did this. But if you go through them, then try the examples yourself on 2 and 3 or 1, 2, and see if you can derive. The whole idea of the theme is to focus on the action so that you can look at it along with your symbols and along with the feelings in the dream. We haven't mentioned the feelings in the dream because they are kind of obvious that but we'll go through those in a minute. Now, the next page, number 9, is an inventory of dream symbols. As I said, I've never done this, but we know that we have certain dreams that keep repeating. The most common dream I have is I'm back in university. I have a math exam. Math was the only thing I was good in, and I haven't done any of the work, and it's my last chance. I'm going to fail, and I'm going to be booted out of school. I've had that dream over and over again, and also being naked in a plaza is another common dream I had. Nobody seems to notice. Yeah. So you take the people in the dream, you think back carefully over your past dreams and list the people that most often appear in your dreams. Then in the second column, write one word that identifies the relationship you have with this, a sister, friend. Then a third column, write one word that describes the nature of the relationship: good, bad, destructive, helpful. Has anybody ever done this?
No, I'm inventory, no.
Actually, I've never done it. Maybe that's why I'm still here. And animals, you do the same sort of procedure. And inanimate objects, similar numbers and colors. So,
I took it one time in a dream and I played the numbers, but it didn't work.
I actually get more information from meditation than I do from dreams. It'll say things like, your number is 43. Okay. What do I do with that? If you turn to page 11, or the 11th page, this is the amplification way of working with dream symbols. And this technique was derived from Carl Jung, who was the student of Freud, who developed a lot of famous works on dreams. But it's a simple but valuable way of working with symbols without doing the injustice of saying at the first off. Of course, this symbol means water means spirit, fish means Christ, and they'll go through that one. If, for example, a person dreamed about a fish, an intellectual approach would be to discern the abstract meaning of fish. Example, fish means the Christ. However, using amplification, the dreamer would instead ask him, what is a fish? What does a fish do? What does a fish remind me of? What do I like or dislike about a fish? As a way of, now, again, we have different approaches to fish. I eat fish 3 or 4 times a week. So it has a special meaning for me that is very different from this person's meaning. Okay, now amplification here can be used with one person or in a group. Now, as I said, the way we approach it is we want the one person to do the work first. And then if he has to come to the group, then so be it. Then we'll work in a group because it takes a while. It can take the whole study group to work on one dream, although we don't usually do that. In the technique shown at the bottom there for one person, choose one symbol at a time from the dream which you're trying to understand. Instead of trying to ascribe an objective meaning to the symbol, freely associate. What is this symbol? What does the symbol do? What do I like or dislike from this symbol? What does this symbol remind me of? What does this symbol look like? Write down these associations in your journal, and then after each association, return to the symbol. Now, they give a list down here. They repeat this. They're repeating this stuff a lot because, as I said, I took out a 12-hour presentation and reduced it down to a half an hour. How are we doing? In summary, then, the method of application is the dreamer chooses a symbol. The group partner, this would be in a group. The group or partner should then ask the dreamer the following questions. Tell me what you know of this symbol. What is the symbol? What does it do? What do you like or dislike about it? The dreamer should verbalize these associations for the partner or group. Moving to the next page, page 13, the 13th page. This is a diagrammatic showing of the 5-step method.
Dallas has a question, Dave.
Pardon?
Dallas has a question.
Yeah, like you were mentioning groups. Many times, when you're like talking about dreams like this, people will ask you, you want to present a dream or whatever, and I never mind talking about a dream or telling people about a dream, but I've never enjoyed when the group starts entering into this means this, that, because they go off on tangents that they don't relate to at all. I think the symbol means something to them, but means something totally different.
Yeah. That's.
I don't know if have you had success with groups?
Yes.
Or more yourself?
Yeah, I have to say that most of the dream work I did was in the early years. And I don't actually, I took this course because my notes are all over it, but I don't remember it all. Seriously, I don't remember where I took it. I assume it's in the mid 80s. And we use it, and but because it's a long process, it still comes back to the people who meditate and things like that. They tend to say, well, I have an impression of what this dream is and what it means. We tend to rely on that rather than getting very technical about eking out its meaning. And but I think the group can help in that, because they come up with such different ideas, it kind of strains you and what the position you're taking, but you still have a feeling because you know yourself and they don't. And your subconscious knows you. And so it's really a conversation between you and them, you and the subconscious. And does the group work hard? These people come from, a lot of them are PhDs in philosophy and the like, and we're studying this stuff. So they were used to group work because everybody's doing group work in those days. Freud and Jung and all of them, and especially the study group program, which is a form of therapy, spiritual therapy. So, and it is, that's what we do all the time. Yeah,
I just want to say that I found it really helpful because
Yeah, with groups.
with groups, and I've always done it in a group, in my
Yeah.
study group. And the thing is, people come up with stuff, you just pick what works for you. Sometimes you go, oh, I never thought of that. And that is relevant, you know? So you take what works for you, but it is useful to get a broader perspective. I find.
Yeah, me too.
thanks, Barb. I was getting a little negative there. But because it's, part of the problem is in the group, it's a little time consuming, and I guess that's what inhibits us from doing that a lot. You notice we don't do it very often, but the principle is still the same. It's you and your subconscious and your superconscious and your feelings. You have special feelings, and you have that towards your mind and the inputs you're getting from the subconscious and superconscious. And so there's no better person than you. And if you have Freud sitting there saying, well, these are all sexual symbols, then it may have nothing to do with your life. And my feeling is you should work on these things. You should use these when you're having trouble. You should use association to try to eke out the meaning of the symbols. And they say this in this summary here. They give the practical steps are feelings in which a dreamer or group of present states the feelings that the overall dream evokes. And then the theme in which the dreamer or helping group distills a short statement of action called the theme, which makes no mention of the symbols themselves. And then the association of the symbols in which the dreamer or help group provides association to the symbols, preferably by using the amplification test. And then you come to a preliminary understanding in which the dreamer distills the insights gained in steps 1 through 3 into a preliminary understanding upon which he will devise a strategy for applying the dream. And then the final one is you apply the dream. Now, if you look at the final pages, page 15, the 15th page, this can be copied and used because it gives it how to do this in a group and how to do this as an individual 5-step approach. And you can read this over at your own timing. Because they're repeating the same things that the dreamer reads or tells the dream slowly. The way we do it is the person reads the dream, and then after he's finished, we ask him to read it again. And because the first reading gives us sort of the length of it and the scope of what we're dealing with. And the second dream or the second reading allows us to make notes and things like that as well. So now they have the leader doing it in this, but we usually, now that's a good way of making sure the leader or the group heard what you said. But usually in this, what they're describing here is that the dreamer then steps out of the process. And the group leaders ask the rest of the people what they think the feelings are in this dream to name, and they just go around and people suggest different feelings for the dream. And then they ask what the theme is, and they suggest a theme, and then they work on the symbols and by using amplification. Now, I don't remember in our group what we do when we The problem with getting old age, you can't remember.
Well, there's a good point here, and I think that speaks to Dallas's point, because we use this in our group, and we used to do it a lot. And more recently it was Zoom, et cetera. We've said if someone has a dream at the beginning of the gathering, tell us you have one, and then we'll reorganize the time. But what we haven't done, and I think might be a good idea, is identify sort of a leader for the process. Generally, whoever is leading that night kind of takes that role. But that does, because as Alice says, sometimes someone will have a comment on a symbol and then they'll go off into, some longer interpretation of it. And that's where a leader can say, just stick with the symbol. And it can help that when people do tend to get off into their own thoughts. So, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, at the bottom of the page, it says this approach was an adapted version of a group dream process developed by Montague Ullman. And as I said, a lot of the early leaders of here, including Scott Sparrow, they were psychology students, and a couple of them were PhDs out of the University of Texas. That would be Mark Thurston, and I forgot who the other one was. And so you had a bunch of PhDs down there, and they were repeating a lot of the work they took in school. They have a couple of examples here. I'll list a couple of the examples, and then I have a dream for you to work on. It's a very short one, and it's being interpreted by somebody. So somebody famous. So the examples of the individual use of the 5-step approach. The 2 brief dreams of the same night. This is the bottom of page 16. I am on the beach and see bluefish rolling in the surf. Fishermen are catching many, and almost everyone has 4 or 5 already. Anxiously, I prepare my pole, but I worry that it might be too late. In the second dream, on page 17, I go down by the water with a friend. Dozens of boats are in close, catching bluefish, and each in great numbers. Once again, I feel eager but left behind. Now, the step 1, the feelings, he writes abundance, discovery, eagerness, impatience, fullness, fear of loss, fear of being left out, anxiety, competition, rarity. Now, the theme in step 2, someone is discovering an abundance that he fears that he will fail to acquire for himself. Now, you could say someone is discovering something that he fears that he will fail to acquire for himself, to follow their rules. Now, the amplification techniques, fish. Fish are slippery and fast. Most of the time, they're invisible, but when they come into view, they are beautiful, silvery things that reflect light. They have a mind of their own and are shy. They have voracious appetites when they come into the shallows to feed. What I dislike about fish is that they are so hard to catch. Fishing boats. I don't have to help. Something I don't have to help me fish. Expensive, but can't be beat by fishing on the beach. To help me conquer some of the obstacles in between myself and the fish. Step 4, the preliminary understanding. I feel that this dream depicts on one level my recent discovery of my own creative nature in my job. My impatience is my most serious obstacle and is fired by the sense of competition I feel with my peers. A fishing boat is an apt parallel to an advanced degree that I've sometimes longed for, but have thought too expensive to pursue. That's quite a leap forward, isn't it? But I'm surprised they use an example like that, because it does seem to demonstrate the principle. Step 5, application. But the principle is you expand the meaning of the symbols. And step 5, the application. In order to pursue my work and creative projects successfully, these are the things I must do. 1, trust the abundance that is not impermanent. That's good. 2, prepare myself rather than be distracted and frustrated by the accomplishment of my peers. 3, apply myself with renewed commitment to making my present projects as creative and as thorough as possible. So that's the end of this sheet, and that's the 5-step method. And the dream we have is this. Have any questions before we look at this dream? There's a lot to take in on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock on Mother's Day. You're real troopers. But I wasn't sure how to handle the situation we're in, because it was new to me. This type of activity is not new to me, but the two media kind of threw me off. I don't know how to, and we're learning a lot here, I'm sure, on how to manage this thing properly, because it's somewhat different. So I'm going to give you Dallas.
Yeah, I have the same problem that I was listening to John Van Acker talking about dream recall, and he says, you wake up and you just had this great dream. You think, well, I should think about this. I'm gonna go and get up and go to the bathroom first. And he came back and, what was that dream about?
Yeah.
As soon as you
I did that on purpose.
It seems like it goes in a row.
It's pleasing.
Some kind of technique.
Don't get up and go to the bathroom right now.
Yeah, I suppose.
Write down a few things, even if it's just a couple of little things. And in your mind, I always repeat it in my mind. I review it from backwards to front before I get up and do something else. And if I write 1 or 2 things down and do that little review before I do that, I find it can come back most of the time.
Somewhere here, they said to pick a symbol to represent it.
Yeah, that's-
And hold the symbol.
Well, Van Auken is a very good salesman. He talks about all the money he made, and well, I guess I've listened to so many of his tapes that I know all his stories. So every time I listen to him again and hear the same stories, he's pretty good at it, though. Here's the dream.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, interject what I do. I never have paper and I never read it. But if I really want to remember, and I can't, I have to go to the bathroom. I repeat, this is what he said, as I'm getting up, I go, okay, I was in the kitchen and I was in the kitchen. And if you can pull out the piece, keep that.
The rest will pop.
Often the rest will come by association.
Good. Here we go. I dreamed of a headless man in a uniform. He was a sailor walking in an erect manner with either a gun or a cane in his hand. I dreamed of a headless man in a uniform. He was a sailor walking in an erect manner with either a gun or a cane in his hand. I wouldn't take too much of the fact that he was a sailor, because these people are all from Virginia Beach, and Norfolk is a big Navy base right beside it. So
Headless man in uniform means he just follows orders and doesn't think.
You're leaping to interpretation.
You're not supposed to.
well, someone is losing their head.
Somebody else is.
So the feelings here, do you see any feelings in that? The guy who interpreted, he didn't use any of these techniques because he wasn't here to see this stuff.
Of all those things, which would be the most pertinent thing that he said there? Would it be the gun, the fact that he's headless, that he's a sailor, what?
Well, I think they're both.
I think they're all important.
The feeling I get is a threat. I don't know if that is that a feeling? Is it fear maybe?
Yeah, no, all feelings are legitimate. It's just that this, now to the dreamer, this is, you see that as a threat to the dreamer?
I do, but you don't, right?
Interesting, though, isn't it? How we see it differently.
Before I could maybe say anything about that, I'd have to know what action he was taking, because A guy with a gun can be a guard. which-
Or a cane.
Or a cane. And or is an interesting statement.
It could be a.
It means the dreamer didn't know which one it was.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
could
so
just
that's
be a guard, like
interesting.
standing still, non-threatening.
Yeah,
Or it can be advancing towards it. That's threatening.
but if the dreamer didn't know it was a gun or a cane, I find that probably the most interesting thing. He knew he was headless, but gun and cane are very different things, you know? One's an assistance, one helps you, the other one will shoot you. So it's kind of that's interesting.
That could be assistance too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Headless is really important.
yeah, headless is obviously important because you don't see that often, especially walking.
Yeah. Walk around with it in your head.
Are you gonna tell us what the dream means?
Okay,
But this person thought the dream.
okay, it was interpreted by Casey in Dreams Your Magic Mirror. LCC Chris used a lot of examples from Casey, and his interpretation is, do not lose your head over your duties. Rather, stress the greater lessons that may be learned from the association of ideas that pertain to things more spiritual. The spirit of the law, rather than the letter of the law, is represented by the gun or cane.
Spirit, yes, which one will you use?
The question now is, how would you ever interpret a dream? I'll end on that note unless
Thanks for that.
Questions?
questions, yes.
No, but an exercise I used from studying dream interpretation from someone else, I can't remember who, was if you do record, keep your dreams every night, wait till the end of a month. And then it's much easier to pick the colors that you're always dreaming about. It's much easier to pick your symbols. And you can categorize them for yourself. And then the one that repeats itself 3 times is the one that you want to really analyze. The same thing.
Interesting.
So if you have that 3 times, then those are the ones you really want to look at.
You know, I found when I first started down this lane many years ago, not nearly as many as Dave, but many years ago, which we do like to point out frequently. It's just something we do in our study group to keep them in
How
line.
come you haven't learned that?
But I started all these methods of learning to remember the dreams, and I was very successful, so successful, but by the end of the first month, I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't do this. Like you're spending a lot of time at night dreaming, a lot. Like we dream a lot more than we think we do, I believe. And then I would be regurgitating and ready. I said, I don't have time. I can't be living my life now. All I'm doing is living my dreams. So I thought, okay, this doesn't make sense, because lots of dreams are just, you know, they're just running commentary. They're regurgitating things for the day. They're not big messages. I don't believe every dream is. So at that time I said, okay, back up, let the dreams do what they do. When you need the dream, when you know it's something that you sort of need to work out or think about, pay attention to that and let the other ones just do what they do. So that was very helpful. So now I do have dreams and I do write them down, but only when I feel, okay, this one is a little bit of a calling. I need to think about it a little more.
I think that idea about looking at the once a month is good, because to
Yes.
me it was overwhelming to think that I needed to do this every day.
Yeah. Oh,
So that's helpful.
And did he say anything about precognitive dreams?
Pardon?
or
Anything
lucid
about
dreaming.
precognitive dreams? You know what's going to happen in the future?
Or lucid dreamings.
Well, of course, in the case of readings, there's a lot of information about that type of dream. In Elsie's book, there's a lot of information about it, but not in this technical manual. It's more about, here's how you do this and you will have more success. But I haven't heard much about the extent of the 5-step method being used. Now, things happen in waves. And back in the early 70s, we were in Toronto, and that's where I started in study groups. And I was in study group number 5. And we eventually had over 80 study groups there. And when I moved here, there was over 14 at one time in Ottawa. So that was kind of a wave in the 70s and in the early 80s. But we had a conference in Toronto, and people showed up at the conference who were in study groups in the 50s. Now, Casey was alive in 45. So that's not long after. Here we are in Canada, and people are in study groups in 1950. And they showed up. And all these mystics that I tune into, and I tune into a few, they keep saying that this next wave, the 60s are coming again. That's so you can get your bell bottoms out. And
They're in fashion right now. Actually.
are they?
I think it's the roaring 20s that is coming back.
The Barb.
I think it would be helpful to go through an actual dream with this method. Does anyone have a dream?
I had one. And I don't remember many.
Are you agreeable to doing, just to practice the 5-step method?
Sure.
What?
Dave, you can be the leader.
Oh, okay.
You can sit down.
I'm gonna sit down.
You can sit and lead.
Sit.
I'll pan out here.
Okay, Barbara, or Shirley.
So in this dream, I'm standing in the doorway of the exterior doorway. The house feels like an adobe hut. You know, I've got my hand on the door side of the door, so I know I'm a woman. And there, I'm looking out at this plain surrounded by these hills. But across from me, there's a crevice in the hills, and there's a wall of water coming through that crevice.
There's a
I'm
what?
standing there knowing the water's coming.
Water.
But I'm not in a panic. I'm very calm, just watching it come. So I interpret it one way. You tell me what you think.
Could you say it again? Can you tell the story one more time?
Okay, so I'm a woman. I'm standing in the doorway, looking outside. There's a plane in front of me. I have my hand on the doorknob or doorway, and it seems like an adobe hut. But there's a ring of hills around the plain, except for one place where there's this big crevice in the hills. And there's a wall of water that I'm seeing coming through there, and it's starting to pour into the plain. And I'm just watching it come.
Okay.
Okay,
I have a door, so you can shut it.
Wait. Let's go the process.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's an open door. There doesn't seem to be a door.
You said you had your hand on the door.
The door for rental, you know, that's
Oh,
why.
okay, all right.
All right.
So what is the door?
We're in the process, Dave. Yeah, you lead into the feelings.
okay, the feelings are, well, I mean, the obvious feeling is you're not concerned.
In a group, though, we ask each
We
person
ask people
to tell their feeling.
their feeling.
Okay, what do you, in listening to that, can anybody eke out some feelings that, based on what Shirley's experiencing in this dream? I still don't understand the crevice and I guess I'm,
Well, there's a ring of hills around.
right,
There's
you're in an
one
adobe
sort
high.
of thing that the water's coming through.
So feelings, if we talked about feelings, Barbara, did you have any feeling that you've felt?
Peaceful with a threat on the horizon.
Anybody else?
Say that, okay, obviously it's threatening, but she's not feeling threatened,
Right,
almost like she's expecting.
right. Anybody else have a
Maybe
feeling
that's
that,
been expected sometime.
Fascination.
that's fascination? Oh, interesting, yeah. Anybody else have like a feeling?
Answer to prayers,
Answer to prayer?
situation,
Mhm.
adobe,
Mhm.
hot atmosphere. Could be periods of drought, now you have water coming.
I have acceptance in my
Resignation.
resignation, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, you're calm.
Okay. So then we would move to the theme, the one line theme.
Yeah, well, anybody like to offer a theme? Don't look at me.
Someone is aware and watching without concern or with acceptance.
someone is watching a big change. 'Cause
Yeah,
it sounds like it's a
that's
peaceful,
true.
plain, hills
Yep.
everywhere, but there's
Yep.
this different thing.
Yeah. Is aware and watching a big change coming with acceptance. Huh, that's good. Mhm.
Was this recent, by the way?
No, no.
So now it's the symbols, and there are some interesting symbols in there. Anybody have any?
Well, the Adobe Hut, obviously.
The Adobe Hut,
Yeah, that's
it's,
interesting.
it's not gonna protect you from water.
No.
Because Adobe's one thing that'll, water will not be stopped by it. It will
Right.
just eat it up.
So the Adobe Hut is seen as something that's impermanent.
She can't go back in the hut, close the door and be safe.
Anybody else see a symbol?
Water.
Yeah, water. Yeah,
Yeah, here's water again, eh?
Water is change, the symbol of change, or one of the
Yeah.
symbols, I think. So
And also
again, big
emotions.
change because of the
Yeah.
water coming.
yeah.
Oh, and emotions.
Emotions.
And which?
Emotions.
The emotion. And the fact that the hills are there all around, but just one crevice. So it's kind of the symbol of there's some way through always, even though there's a surrounding or protection, you're not.
It's almost like a threat, like not a threat, but like it's pointing at you, you know, it's
Mhm. Coming
coming
to
in a way
you.
that you can't diffuse it. Because it sounds like it's just coming from a little area, coming right at the
It's
Adobe house.
resignation more than acceptance, I think.
Mhm.
She's resigned.
It's not running
Nothing I
away or
can do.
anything.
Yeah, resignation.
That's not what Shirley
I
expressed.
didn't get a sense of that, of being sort of like, oh, no. I got a sense of it is what it is, kind of, not exactly resignation, but more
Inevitability.
inevitability maybe, yeah, that's a
So
good.
how dated is this dream?
Pardon me?
How dated is the dream?
How dated?
Yeah, when
How,
was it?
how long ago was it?
Oh, a few years.
And was there something in particular happening in your life at the time? Where was your life at the time?
I couldn't tell you the context.
Mhm.
I know we watch a lot of these here programs that say the end of the world's coming, or this
Right,
particular disaster is gonna end this, you know, or a certain time, big changes are coming. So I guess you watch a lot of those, you're sort of expecting it.
could
You
be,
live in expectation of
Yeah.
some disaster.
yeah.
But if you're really expecting it to be a disaster, you think you'd be in a panic.
And you're not in a
I wasn't.
panic.
No.
That's what's interesting. So we're at that arriving at a preliminary interpretation. So surely does that part, what is
So-
you thinking?
Originally, I thought, okay, that it was a past life. And I was watching,
Right,
a past life where I died.
right.
But something in this reading today has given me a different perspective, being that it's water and that spiritualism. Could this be, I was going to go through a massive change in my spirituality. So
That's
very
interesting.
different perspective.
Yeah. And they both can be true, by the way. I
Yes.
think, it's, that's the beauty of saying a dream that you have at this point in time for that purpose can still be applied later. And it helps you, it's,
Yeah, be personal change.
Yeah.
Personal change.
I wondered if that was happening at the time that you guys were selling the farm and moving and a lot of things were changing in your own life and in your spiritual life along with that, if that was all part of that whole thing. Life change.
Not, like I said, I can't remember the
When,
context,
mhm.
just the dream.
I think it's interesting how we all kind of fall back into Elsie Seacrest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's so natural, to feel that way, that like the most powerful thing in your dream is your feelings.
Yeah.
And but that demonstrates that principle ably, because the fact that you are feeling that this is fine, this is I didn't see resignation in that. Was that your feeling, resignation, or is it feeling?
Just that I wasn't panicking. There was nothing I could do to prevent it.
Mhm.
So that was just standing away.
It is in a way, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's a fine line between resignation of, oh my, and resignation, well, it is what it is. Right? Yeah. And so then the step 5, which would be the Casey principle of saying, and how would you apply not knowledge, whether it's now or when you first had it, what would you think to apply from that?
Well, for one thing, I don't remember a single other person in the dream,
Right.
or dog or anything. It was
Right.
just me waiting.
Right, waiting.
So it could be just that it was some change that was coming for me alone. It didn't involve destruction of anybody else.
That makes sense.
And if you were going to apply that knowledge in like today or for tomorrow, what would that look like for you?
Maybe on the way home, you should buy it.
But maybe it's just continuing that spiritual, because that's really your life, that was quest, right?
I have gone through major changes, so
Yeah.
I presume that that was
Yeah.
what it was indicating.
Mhm.
And I had another series of dreams that indicated the same things. We've moved 16 times.
Yes,
So these dreams where we're always moving into this, which we have done.
Yeah.
Rickety houses, and then we had to fix them up.
ah,
We only got
Adobe,
them fixed up when we moved to another rickety house, had to fix it.
the Adobe house. Another house that's gonna get destroyed by that darn water and I have to fix.
I think 2000, we lived in a tent for a while.
Liz Cottrell told me that that was a very positive dream
Yeah.
series. He
Yeah.
said what it means is you're moving through steps of consciousness. As soon as you get this one done, you move into
You're ready,
the one you gotta
yeah.
work on.
And you know it's okay.
Yeah, so they could relate.
Yeah, yes, no.
That's the impression I had too, that you were above it and that it
Acknowledge.
was simply coming and washing away whatever you had been
It's
working.
kind of the Buddhist concept of impermanence. It confirms that nothing is permanent and you go on and you do go on and you do find new things and you do have resilience, you know.
Right.
That's cool. Very cool. And you're right on time, Dave, 2 minutes.
Oh,
to wrap it.
okay. Well,
Oh,
Hey.
15, sorry, you have 15 minutes.
Do the Zoom people have anything?
Does anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments for Dave? I will show yourself. Oh, I think Ellis and Ralph are there. I think Olga must have gone. Ellis and Ralph, anything from you guys?
No, not really. We're not good at dream interpretation, but
Ah, yeah, there's lots of information that in that package, and I actually, like Barbara, find it very useful to stand back from it a little bit, and other people, even though they may offer things that, oh, no, that doesn't resonate, or that does, I hadn't thought of that, I find that very helpful. And
Other people also,
Yeah.
very like your image, like you said. destructive.
absolutely, yeah,
And I thought, okay, that's different.
yeah. Yeah, I find it very helpful that, and I was just thinking that an idea for the Casey group, like we'd have it in our study group, is for anybody who's in our community, doesn't matter if they're in our study group or that study group or no study group, says, oh, I do have a dream and I would like a group to put out a call and say, is there a group that could come together one evening and have a dream night, you know, for maybe 1 or 2 people that have dreams, because I think it would be useful to do that.
yeah,
No?
yeah, taking it out of our group meeting
Yeah.
takes a big chunk out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought if you have a few minutes, I have a dream. I figured out what it meant
Ah,
shortly after. I wonder if it's very simple, I think, so you won't be able to.
Oh,
guess.
good.
I just wonder if you'd like to guess.
sure.
Yeah, we like simple dreams.
This was a dream I had 20 years ago. It's so vivid, I still remember. I felt it was really, the feeling for me was very, very nice. It was like a dream come true, being dream within a dream. It was just lovely. I was looking at a scene, a very neat little row of green evergreens, just beautifully shaped, like you would do in a drawing. Little trunk and the little triangle of each one, and the row of them. And the thing is, they were all cut, like somebody had cut, but they were still standing nicely, right? But there was a cut across each trunk. So they were there. And then I was in a building, and I walked across the road where the trees were. I walked beyond them into this road that went down into hills, beautiful scene, like the most beautiful scene you can imagine. For me, it's always little blue hills and, you know, flowers and trees, and I walked into paradise, sort of, you know. And then I came back and I was still in my square building, and I went upstairs and I was I could see myself standing there by the window, and I was kind of waiting, and my husband and our son were in the house. But I had my back to them, and I was just there at the window, looking at that scene, like expectantly, like waiting. That was my dream. But I had a very, very good feeling. I remember I was doing dances of universal peace at the time, and I told my group about it because I was so excited about this dream. I didn't know what it meant, but it was something good. And it was a change in my life.
Let's do the process.
Okay.
Well, you lead it, Barb.
Sorry, I.
Okay.
so much.
I'll teach you for speaking out.
So, can you go through your dream again?
Yes, the thing was, that I first noticed was a group of trees, all, one in a row, one after another, looking at them. And I don't know how many, but probably 7 or 8. And each, they're perfect little shapes, they're green, they're evergreens, but just so prim and proper. And they each have been cut. I'm aware of this, that they each have been cut, but they're still standing there. You never could do that, the tree would just fall. But in the dream, they have been harvested sort of in a way because somebody's come and cut the tree.
Right.
Like when you're cutting a tree, you'll cut the trunk. Well, that's where but they're all still standing there perfectly.
And then?
And then they lead me, like I walk through that and they lead me into something else, this beautiful scene that I've kind of always longed for. Of the road, like the road going off into the hills, and I don't actually walk it, I just look, there it is, and I go back to my building, and I'm at the window, kind of just looking at the scene and waiting.
Waiting.
Thank you.
And your feeling from that?
No, you don't ask her, you ask.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Like, I just wanted to share this with people, it was such a good feeling.
Okay. Anybody else? A feeling?
I had this dream about 2 weeks before okay, sorry.
That's okay, that is okay.
It was 2 weeks before the thing that I think the dream meant happened.
Okay. I felt peaceful and excited almost.
Yeah, happiness, I was very happy to see this scene.
I feel upset by the trees being cut.
You feel upset.
But they were sort of symbolic trees. I mean, they were so perfectly placed.
Did they have actual branches though, or were they?
It was just almost like, they reminded me of, my son had a little game at one point in which there were plastic trees that are just perfect. You just see the green and the trunk.
Like a perfect Christmas
around. They were just symbolic trees, I think.
But still they're impermanent because they're alive right now, but they've been cut. They're not going to stay alive.
That's right.
So you're feeling from that, Shirley?
And your feeling?
But she moved by it blissfully. She was accepting. this,
Accepting.
Of recent impermanence. Yeah.
Acceptance, okay. Any more feelings? Okay, the theme. Does someone want to take a shot at that?
That's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. Someone sees,
Not much happened, I was just waiting.
Maybe that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
but someone
So
sees,
that's a glimpse of paradise. Then.
Yeah.
Waiting for that.
Have to get rid of the permanent
But
property.
technically,
someone sees destruction followed by paradise.
Yeah, someone sees destruction followed by paradise.
But she said prepared to have.
Then it's symbols,
Symbols, okay.
lots of those.
Symbols, anyone want to take a crack at
Moving forward to better days.
a symbol?
So those perfect little trees.
Trees, roads, hills, house.
Yeah,
Well, the trees were a pathway. She said they were leading.
leading her. That's right. And they were perfect little trees.
Right, right.
She said that many times. But perfect.
The damage is perfection.
Damaged perfection.
Damage perfection.
And the
And
being,
evergreen, like always green.
and standing looking out the window is interesting because we have ideas when you look at a window waiting. You have those two themes together at the end in a very positive way. So looking through a window, the windows are a symbol, of something you can look out to, but you're inside,
That's right. That's right. I was looking at something, but I was in the.
You were inside and your family was there, you said.
That's right.
You didn't see them, but they were there.
Mhm.
So there's a sense of community or connection.
But it was my personal thing.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they were sort of behind me. I wasn't communicating with them
No.
and everything. It's just that
They
they were.
were there, they were present.
I was focusing on
I'm
my
trying to think of other
view that I
symbols.
could see.
And there's a house too, the house is
The
Yeah.
house?
Usually you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Anyone else wanna? The road, the hills.
I don't get the trees.
Well, I didn't either at first. I only figured it out afterwards. It was obvious.
Okay,
Ah.
well, that's.
So there you go then,
Okay.
your interpretation.
The situation at the time is that I had not expected to be able to retire for another 5 years. Something happened. I was given an option, which I took gladly. I couldn't believe it. But I could take an option then. And the harvest was my retirement.
Right.
The trees
Represented
represented
your life.
the retirement. I mean, to me, that made sense, the way I felt when I heard, when I had the dream, I just felt like elated. And when I heard that I could retire that year and not wait another 5, I was ready for it actually,
Right.
but I was resigned to doing another 5 years, but I was
Sort of prophetic.
yes, but I was looking forward to, you know, better days of being able to be more in nature and, you know, that natural view that I could see. So in a sense, I was there by the window waiting, and I didn't have long to wait. I didn't realize this. Because the trees were all cut, see, they were ready to harvest, like
Yeah.
the thing I've been working on for
Yeah.
decades.
It's ready to
It
go.
was ready for the harvest.
It was regenerating.
Okay.
That's what I was
The
thinking.
trees had been cut, they were ready to go, they just
They just-
didn't until that
Right.
time.
Right.
And then they all get harvested and I have my
And they
retirement.
get
That was
the
the,
product.
that's right.
Nice.
That's the way I interpreted it afterwards, because it happened right afterwards. I heard unexpectedly, this was something that I was not expecting. Because I didn't think with my age I qualified, but I did, because they changed the rules, changed whatever rule they changed that affected me. And I think the only person in that year in my school. And I was able to just.
Then
That's right, it was prophetic. You didn't know it at the
I did
time.
not
So
know.
you, in your dream, knew.
I had this dream 2 weeks before
Yeah,
I found out that I would be able to retire that year. That was it.
and that's one form is the prophetic dream.
And it was, you know, before the end of the school year, so I was just thinking I was gonna have the holiday, but now this was gonna be forever. So that was elation, you know.
Yeah.
Trees didn't happen for 5 years.
No, no, the trees were done, so.
They're done.
They were really done, but they were perfect for what they were for, because it was a symbol. I mean, they looked so neat, just like they looked like the plastic trees my son played with. So there was just a symbol of all of this harvest I've been gathering, and now it was ready to be put into use. Anyways, I thought you might be able to guess, but it's not that simple, is it, to figure out what symbols mean?
No.
So I certainly couldn't figure it out when it happened. I just was very happy with the dream, but I didn't know what it meant.
Very nice.
But then it was.
So I can't see how we could skirt to that being a harvest because we'd be distracted by the fact that these trees have been cut
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
But that is the
should be
harvest.
dead.
We've got trees that's-
Yeah, because after it, they were leading you somewhere,
Yeah.
which was,
And trees literally give you, well, when it isn't a retirement, they still give you money. They give you something when you harvest them. You sell them for wood.
Right.
Or as a Christmas tree or whatever.
yeah. There's so many different kinds of dreams too, like the prophetic. The one the most unusual dream I've ever had in my life was a lucid dream, and I've only ever had 2 of those. And this was many years ago. I was laying in bed, it was, I woke up and I felt it came through the bottom of my feet, this energy went, and I went out. Like just, I was kind of like almost stunned, and I thought, am I dying? Like, what's happening? So I woke up and I looked at the clock, it was 2:11 a.m. And I'm like, what happened? My husband was there. I kind of looked around. I thought, what do I feel like? I don't know. I'm okay. I think I'm breathing. It was the weirdest thing. And I went back to sleep, and I got up the next morning and I went downstairs, which I always did. And I never, ever, ever put the radio on in the house. I used to put it on in the car. This morning I put the radio on, and the radio announcer was announcing there had been a vehicle accident near Thunder Bay at 2:11 a.m. and a 9-year-old boy had died.
Oh dear.
And I thought, oh my God, like some frequency thing or something I don't understand. And I didn't know these people. They weren't, I read about it afterwards, but I can say for sure that I felt that as soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, that went through my body. That whole transition went through my body. It was the most unusual experience I've ever had. I don't have any reason why this person, it wasn't someone I knew or anything I knew about.
So,
Hmm?
you think that 9-year-old boy was connected to you somehow?
I don't know. I don't, not that I'm aware of in any way, but I can for sure that energy went through my body. I didn't know at 2:11, but as soon as I heard that on the radio, I said, "Oh, that's what it was." I knew that. And I just felt that connection, like, oh, I said, so interesting. I didn't think that a soul dying would go through another person's body like that. You know, that was maybe 30 years ago. Very unusual, but I can still feel it like, but that was a weird, yeah.
Anybody want to contribute any more freaky dreams?
2 minutes.
My aunt died in, Sault Ste. Marie. She lived in Sault Ste. Marie. The night she died, I dreamt that she had died. She had crossed over. And my mom phoned, so that's what woke me up. And of course, knowing me, my mom said, I just thought I'd phone you and tell you that your aunt has died. And I said, oh, that's great. Like she woke me up.
Your favorite aunt, eh?
And I said, I know. And she said, well, who called you? And I said, oh, well, God was writing your name and calling her. The first time, one of the first times, few times I heard God. And he had written her name in the sky with a little airplane. There was her name. I could see it. And that was in the dream. And he called her name.
Wow. Cool.
And I said, I know. Of course, my mom.
Cool.
You can't respond.
That's a good one.
Like, don't wake me up at.
Could have waited.
Yeah. Very cool. I have precognitive dreams, so I don't share with them. They scare me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. They're scary. And then you think, is it really going to happen? Is it really going to happen? What can I do to change it so maybe it doesn't happen? And that's a lot of responsibility. But, you know, I don't normally share those.
Well, I'm going to close this off because John's going to come up later. So I'm just going to close the, anything, Alice or anybody have any comments before we close off? No, we'll be back then. I'll close this one down and we'll be back at, what time is it for John?
10:30.
At 10:30. So see you guys at 10:30. Bye.